With prices of almost everything exploding, wouldn't it be nice to know how to live cheaply? Alain Guillot is written about that, and he joins me right after this. Alain, you are originally from Colombia. Did you find Canada expensive when you first arrived?
Yes, I did. Well, prices here in Canada, they are in certain things about twice as high as prices in Colombia, especially housing. Housing is expensive in any major city in Canada. I'm sure there is some little towns that have low price housing, but I live in Montreal. And I'm lucky, I have been living in the same place for many years, over a decade now, so my rent can only go up a certain percentage every year. So I am lucky, but I see some of my neighbors who are paying probably more than twice the amount of rent that I pay right now. And just to give you a perspective, so my mother just bought a condo in my native city of Barranquilla, and her condo is in a good neighborhood. It has 2 living rooms, 3 bedrooms. It's in 7th floor, and she paid about $120,000 US. This same condo here, it would be at least half a million Canadian dollars, or close to $1 million. So that's the perspective in regards to housing. And labor expensive. It's here is more expensive. But yeah, but there everything is imported, like cars or machinery. So all those things, the price of those items is way higher than here in Canada.
Okay. And then early on, as I understand it, and I read an article that you wrote about living cheaply and living like a king. And you talk about FIRE and the Financial Independence Retire Early program. It's an interesting program. So tell me about it.
Well, it's the idea of wanting to retire as early as peaceful as possible. When I came here to Canada, I came with the intention of being a millionaire, a bowler. I saw the movie Wall Street, and somehow I wanted to be like that guy. I forgot the name of the actor. So I went and studied finance. I went to Concordia University, and that's all I wanted to do. And I graduated in finance, and then I had the most miserable time finding a job. To be honest, my English was half as good as it is right now at that time, and my French was even worse. So I struggle a lot to find a job. And so this is a nice, I like to share this story. Well, when I was going to university, I was part of a group called Latin American Student Organization. And my job was to organize parties, to collect funds. I don't know why we were collecting funds for what reason, but that was always the urgency to collect funds for the next thing. And in my mind, I said, okay, let's do dance parties. You know, everyone likes to dance, everyone buys beers. And I decided to give free dance lessons. And I was never a good dancer, but I knew a little bit more than everybody else. And in that process of giving dance classes, that became like my identity while I was going to college. And people were start asking me for, oh, how do you do this move? How do you do this other move? How do you turn the girl? How do you get the girl to go from here to there? So in the process of explaining that, I got better and better, and people started offering money. How about every Monday we do a little half an hour session? So that became my side hustle. Now, when I struggled to find a job because my English was so horrible and my French even worse, then I said, okay, I'm going to start giving dance classes as a side hustle while I find a job. Okay. But it so happens that my schedule started filling up fast, and I was doing 2 classes, 3 classes. All of a sudden, I was doing 6 hours of dance per day,
Oh, wow. That's you
and
got,
I give him
and
well.
you have another job at the time, Alain?
No, I was unemployed. I was looking for a job, and that's my job was to look for a job.
Right.
But I was trying to help myself pay the bills by giving dance classes. And at a given moment, I say, wait a minute. Okay, so I'm not making a lot of money, but I'm dancing with beautiful women every day. They perfume themselves. They do all this manicure and put lipstick to dance with me. And I don't have a lot of luxury, but I'm having a great time. And then I'm invited to parties every weekend. Why don't I continue with this and continue teaching? And then I met my dance partner, and the two of us started a dance school. And that dance school from the beginning was a great success. We both were young, beautiful, we had great personalities, and we made a good combo. And our school just continued growing. And I just got the whole idea of finding a job in finance. I always loved the idea of finance. I continued reading and informing myself and teaching myself, but I just became a dance teacher, and I have done other things ever since. But that became now my new identity, my new hustle, and I get paid extra for having a Spanish accent. My credibility is, whenever a person goes to look for a salsa teacher, they see this Quebecois who is excellent dance teacher, and then they see this Latino with a Spanish accent, and somehow I get the job just because I have a Spanish accent. So I love it. What was a disadvantage at one time, my Spanish accent, then became an asset.
Right. Okay. And I know you've got other side hustles. I saw that you were a photographer and that you perform wedding ceremonies and all kinds of other things. But talk to me about your investments. How did you get started?
Well, you are in the investment business. You know that many people start by making all the typical mistakes. So I went to a bank one time, and the person told me, okay, so you are in the risk profile X. These are the mutual funds that are recommended to you. And my way of picking a fund was, okay, let's see which one did the best last year. And then that's the one I pick. I don't care what they did. They did good last year. They must be doing good next year. But no, the economy turns in cycles. Because the good last year was good doesn't mean that the next year is going to be good. So I lost a few years of not doing good. And then I said, oh, I'm smarter than all these people over there. I'm going to pick my own stocks. And guess what? I started buying Nokia. I started buying BlackBerry. I started buying all the companies that went. So I said, oh, I guess this is not the way to become rich either. So, but my curiosity was always there, my thirst for learning, and I continued reading and informing myself. And then I discovered this thing called index fund, and I read all about Jack Bogle and how you invest with the market instead of trying to beat the market. And somehow, since the last 10 years or longer, I have adopted that philosophy, and every cent that I have put it into Canadian index, US index, and international index. And sometimes I do deviate myself, and every time I deviate from that plan, I get smacked in the face. I say, oh, I'm gonna buy Airbnb because Airbnb is great. And then I buy it, and then it goes down 40%. So, that's always I take that as a good lesson. And I don't sell it. I just take it as a reminder. Next time someone tells me, oh, buy this other company, I say, screw you. I'm still holding this loser over here. And that's the purpose of my losing company. They remind me that my last pick was not that great, so why I'm going to pick another one.
I've heard that experience time and time again, and I've experienced it time and time again myself. Okay, so now you've got this nest egg of investments. You live off that nest egg, plus, I guess, the dance revenue or the photography or all the side hustles that you do. How do you live so cheaply? We've talked about your rent being cheap, but I mean, do you ever go out to restaurants?
Okay, so well, my rent is cheap because I have been the last 10 years in the same place, so it can only go by law so much. But yes, I do go to restaurants. However, I go to a small neighborhood restaurant. I believe a lot in this community where I live. There are a lot of artists. I consider myself an artist. So we hang out in the park. We go to this cafe and the other one. And I go out about once, maybe twice a week to a restaurant. And they are not expensive. I pay what, $20-$30 a meal in one of these neighborhood restaurants. I don't feel like I deprive myself, and I'm always socializing with my friends. So occasionally, let's say I something extraordinary happens, then I go to a more expensive restaurants. But it's not that much better, and I just feel good supporting the small restaurants in the neighborhood.
What about prices for things that you have to get every day? People talk about food prices. Well, people don't just talk about it. You experience it this last year or so. Food prices have been crazy high. What do you do about that?
Well, I do not relate. First of all, I before our conversation today, I just opened a website. What is it? I look for roasted chicken. A whole roasted chicken costs $20. This is a whole animal there that you are eating for $20. It's already cooked. But as for me personally, I follow a plant-based diet. So every day I go to the supermarket and I buy fresh. I take my apples, I touch them, I squeeze them, I look at them, I take my avocados, my mangoes, I smell them. I buy fresh fruit every day, fresh fruit and vegetable. I hardly ever eat meat. It's just a dietary preference that I have, and I just don't feel it. But talking about expenses, so the three main expenses of any Canadian are housing, and that I find that there is a big problem in housing in Canada. I'm lucky, but there is a huge problem, and that problem is I point my fingers at the lack of housing development. If you don't have enough housing, then the small quantity of housing they're going to go on price. It's just supply and demand. Food, well, as for me, I don't depend so much on that pricing. I buy fruits and vegetables every day. I spend about $310 per day in fruits and vegetables. So that's $300 per month. I don't know how much a regular person spends, but I don't find that to be expensive. And transportation. Now, my transportation is a red bicycle.
Yeah.
I take that everywhere. I walk every day 1 hour, whether I have to go to any place or not, because I use that as part of my exercise. But if anything is within half an hour walking distance, I go by foot, even in winter, or my bicycle, or public transportation. When I do need a car, there are car sharing clubs around my neighborhood. I rent a car for $10 an hour. So, transportation is not expensive. And I find, people say that many Canadians are going through financial difficulties, that they are living paycheck to paycheck. Yet, when I walk out there, I see so many luxury cars, so many huge SUVs out there, that cost $40,000-$50,000 each. So I don't know how these people who are living paycheck to paycheck can afford all these luxury, huge SUVs. I don't know. I think it's a choice of how people decide to spend their money. I used to be a car owner at one time. I always bought small subcompact cars that are low, don't cost too much money on gas. So those are my preferences, but transportation is a bicycle, so it doesn't cost me any money. Food, I buy fruit and vegetables. They are always in season, they're always delicious, and they are always the cheapest because they are in season. And housing, well, I think I'm very lucky. Not too many Canadians have the good luck that I have of having a place where they have been renting for a long time. And I am afraid. In fact, the owner of this building told me that he's gonna put the building for sale. So I am afraid that my rent situation will change sometime in the near future, maybe next year, maybe the year after. I'm sure every time there's a sale of a building, we're gonna do renovations, and they double the price. I see it as part of the game or the business of real estate. So I'm bracing myself for that. But we just have to adjust. There's high inflation. We just have to, I don't know, buy smaller cars or try a bicycle or something, and I I see a lot of I have nieces and cousins, and I see people spending lots of money on alcohol, on drugs. Marijuana is expensive. I haven't smoked a joint in a long time, but I know marijuana is expensive. There's
We're not going to go down that aisle. Okay, so you've got investments, and you've got. I read that article, Lean Fire, about this whole financial independence and retire early. When do you plan to retire?
Never, because I need to work for my mental and physical health. I already work less than 20 hours per week, and my work is doing things that I like doing. I like dancing and I like taking photos. So if I stop working, I can only spend so much time in the park doing nothing. So I have to do something. I really don't know what people do in retirement. You are a financial. I think you have dealt with people who are in retirement. What do they do?
They make up things to do often as not, including podcast. So I'm not going to complain, Alain. Not going to complain.
I'll tell you a short story. I took an Uber not too long ago, and there comes this guy who picks me up in a brand new what is the Cadillac. And
Right.
I say, how can you make a living being an Uber driver with this Cadillac? The car payments and insurance for this must be huge. And he told me, you know what? I'm retired. I'm a millionaire, but I can only watch and do golf so many hours per day. I'm doing Ubering because I just don't know what to do with my life.
Yeah.
So there we go. We have to do something. We have to have a purpose. This person find it in doing Ubering 2 or 3 hours per day. I find it in giving dance classes and taking photos of people who are going to get married next weekend.
So, give me the most important thing that you could give as advice to somebody who wants to live frugally and still invest.
Okay, so the financial formula is very simple. You spend less than you earn and you invest the rest. Okay, so find a way to spend less than you are earning. And I don't know what regular salaries are, but there is a way to make it work in a way that you will spend a little bit less than what you are earning, and then dump all your money in index fund, or seek the advice of someone like you, and who can hold their hand and say, okay, so this is how you invest your money, and I think that's the winning formula. You will not become millionaire by trying to beat the market. I tried that and I failed. You would not you will not become millionaire by investing in cryptocurrencies or marijuana stocks or none of that nature. You just work and just put a little bit aside every month, and 10 years later you're gonna find yourself that you have a good chunk of money that you can leverage and do something with that.
Alain, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Alain Guillot not only teaches dancing and does photography at and weddings, but he also wrote Lean Fire, about how you can live more frugally. Talk to you soon.